Welcome to Cayuga On The Rocks. I'm your host, Robert Uckman, and I hope that you all have enjoyed my little break from doing the podcast. It definitely wasn't intentional on my part, but as many of you know, life definitely can get in the way. So with been unemployed for about 7 months, my focus turned on to making money however I could. And so things that I enjoyed that didn't necessarily bring in that dough, I had to reconsider how much time I put into it. So I do apologize that I didn't keep people posted, but I'm super excited to be back here. This is the first show after about a 2-month hiatus, maybe even a little longer, and I really am looking forward to it. So without any other explanation or anything, I would love to introduce my guest today. My guest is Chris Blessing, a local musician. I'm sure many of you know. How are you doing today, Chris?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's definitely my pleasure. And as many of you probably know, he is one of the members of Primates and local musician. How long have you been doing music?
So doing music altogether, I've pretty much always been playing music my whole life. Nice. You know, I remember being like 3 or 4 years old and having a little keyboard that I used to just sort of plunk away at. And then by the time I was about 8 years old, I started taking viola lessons, and I was learning viola for a few years. And then I played a little bit of piano after that, and you know, by the time I was 11, I got a guitar for Christmas, and that pretty much sealed the deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, as my listeners know, one of the things that I do with the show is enjoy a little drink with my guests. So
yes.
Today...
Fine libations.
Yes, definitely. Today I am trying Four Roses Yellow Label Bourbon. It's a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey from Four Roses Distillery. Chris is going a little bit different route. Chris, what are you drinking today?
Looks like I got a Mine Warhorse Raspberry Sour Ale, and it's delicious.
So Warhorse is a brewing company. I believe they're in Rochester.
Okay.
I believe that's where they are. They are relatively local. I do know that. But exactly where, who knows? There may be a beer snob listening that will definitely let me know later on. But for now, that's what we're going to say. But it definitely is Warhorse and a great, great beer.
It definitely agrees with me.
I enjoyed it the other day. Definitely liked it. What are some of the flavor complexes you like on that?
Oh man, I'm just tasting straight raspberry here. I don't have the most refined taste when it comes to you know, alcohols and stuff. I couldn't necessarily tell you the different notes and all that stuff. I don't know any of that stuff, man. I just know, you know, what makes me feel good, I guess.
Yeah, I got you. Nothing wrong with that. Isn't that why we're drinking anyways, just to feel a little better?
That's right.
So the Four Roses that I'm drinking, it's nice, it's light, it's easy to drink. The reason I picked it up, though, is a bottle of bourbon that is delicious to drink on the rocks or neat for $21. How can you really go wrong? And that was the deciding factor as to why I drink Four Roses today. So, yeah, nothing too earth-shattering on that.
No.
But
bourbon always does me dirty, man. I can't do that stuff.
Yeah, it does a lot of people dirty. Let's face it. Yeah, it can be a harsh drink, but if you like it, oh man, the flavors are just fantastic, and that's where I'm at. I just love trying new bourbons, love taste of it, and very, very seldom am I putting anything in it except maybe some ice.
My brother's a big bourbon guy. He loves that shit.
Nice. So, without further ado, let's do a little toast. Cheers to you.
Cheers, my friend.
And let's get on with the conversation. That is yummy. Man, I'm just going to take a moment to savor that.
Yes.
Okay, moment's over. Dead air doesn't do very well for recording, so I guess we should keep talking instead of enjoying our drinks here. So, obviously, you started at an early age. You said at 11 you got your first guitar?
Yeah, I was about 11, and I was just I just always kind of had an ear for it, I guess. I used to just spend hours sitting next to the stereo, blasting Pink Floyd and Jimi Hendrix or whatever, and just trying to play along to it. And that was basically how I learned how to play guitar. You know, I basically am all self-taught. You know, with a few things here and there. You know, but mostly it's just stuff that I kind of figured out on my own and just tried to replicate what I was hearing.
Nice. Now, did your family have an influence on that? Do you have musicians throughout your family, or not really?
No, not really. I remember my sister used to play the flute a little bit when we were younger, but that's, you know, that was a long time ago. That was only for a few years. Neither of my parents had any musical inclination at all, and they were always like, where the hell did you get that gene? You know, I was like kind of confused by that, but yeah, that was I was basically the only one in the family that really played.
Okay, very cool. I mean, it's pretty impressive to me that you were able to self-taught like that, especially at such an early age. I think that's awesome. I can play any instrument you want, just not want to listen to me play it. So I think that's the distinction there. I mean, yeah. I can play anything you want, but I'll probably ruin the instrument and may make your ears bleed. So
I remember learning how to play the Simpsons theme on a keyboard when I was a kid. I remember learning how to play the Star Wars theme and stuff. You know, I just sort of be like, okay. You know.
I remember that same thing, but just banging on the keys with no real sound coming out. That's worthwhile. But I guess that's where your talent is different than mine. So one of the things that I love about what you do in the Primates is you have some original music. How many songs do you think you've written throughout the years?
That I've written? Probably at least 100, but I've thrown away most of them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It takes a lot to get that gem, right?
Yeah, right. You gotta sift through it and find the good ones for sure. Yeah, I mean, with the Primates, we have probably about 2 hours worth of original music altogether.
Nice.
And that alone has been like accumulated over the last couple of years. You know, it's been kind of a slow thing because for me, I'm very picky with my songs. I don't like to just throw songs out there. You know, I want to make sure that anything I'm going to be putting on a stage with the band is going to be something that is quality, something that is meaningful, or something that is unique in some way. So I try my best to just sort of be unique.
Well, every time I see you guys, the favorite songs that come up tend to be your original stuff. Maybe it's just me because I just love hearing new artists and such, but I always enjoy any original song you put through, although I've always enjoyed all your set lists, and there's always a couple that obviously are big hits throughout, that I've heard numerous times. Too Many Puppies, Walk
Too
About.
Many Puppies is not ours though.
No, I know that.
Okay,
I know.
I was gonna say.
I'm just saying those two in particular. I know you always play them, and they're big hits. They're big draws, which I think you guys do a fantastic job on. But in reality, don't put me on the spot with names because I won't be able to answer
fine.
that.
I don't
but
remember the
it's
names
when
either.
your original songs come on, and I've seen you enough that I'm singing along with those too, and
Thanks,
feel
man.
like I would have heard them on the radio if I'm being honest.
Thanks, man. That makes me feel really good. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
It means a lot to
definitely.
me.
Definitely. So anytime you want to do even more original, I'm all about it. I'll be up there supporting that for
Awesome.
sure.
We're working on some new tunes right now. We've been banging out some new stuff the last couple of months. You know, so we want to just keep adding to the repertoire. We want to eventually get to the point where we're like, we don't have to rely on covers at all. We want to get up to, we want to get to we want to get to a point where we're just up there playing our own stuff with,
Which would be amazing.
Yeah.
Chris and I
We're
were
on our way.
talking. Chris and I were talking actually before the show, and one of the things I said is I love when artists play their original music, and I would love to see even more bands in Auburn playing original music because it gives you something fresh, something new, and you really can see the talent. We all know they're talented musicians, but man, when they're playing their own stuff, there's past the talent, but also a love for what you're doing.
Songwriting is a painstaking process. It's not, I mean, it's something that makes you pull all your hair out for sure.
Wait, so you don't write them in like 20 minutes?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes. Yeah, no. Sometimes a song comes out, maybe even like almost half the time when you write a song, at least for me, it just kind of all comes out at once. It doesn't really take much thought. But the other half of the time, or a little more than half of the time, it's something where like for me, I come up with a riff or I'll come up with a line, and it'll be stuck in my head for like 6 months before I finally can put it to something else. Because you can have a chord progression, but you don't want a song to just be one chord progression over and over again. You want to have other parts. You want to have a chorus part and a bridge part, and you want to change things, and you don't want it to be monotonous or repetitive or anything like that. So it's a lot of times you just for me, I just get an idea, and then months down the road, I end up combining those ideas to and sort of tying them all together and be like, okay, oh, there we go, there's a song.
All right,
kind of a weird thing. But.
Okay, so is there anything that do you ever just, I guess, go down and sit down just to write songs? And if so, what is your process, or do you have any rituals that help you to get going?
I think it's a varying process. Sometimes if I'm going to be writing music, as far as rituals are concerned, sometimes if I want to write music, I might do some yoga beforehand, because that might help clear my head a little bit and help me relax a little bit, and then I can just focus on the song. But the process itself, I think, varies with every single song. Excuse me. It's never really the exact same thing. I mean, sometimes. We have this one song that is a fairly new original of ours called Goldberry, and I actually wrote the lyrics all by themselves without any melody in mind, without any chords in mind. I just sort of wrote it almost like a poem, and then the next day I sat down and I put chords on top of it, and it became something else. It's kind of interesting because it's there's a lot of Lord of the Rings references in it. It's super nerdy. I wrote it as a poem. It's supposed to be kind of like it was supposed to be in my head. It was kind of like a song that you might read in Lord of the Rings. It's kind of like one of those poems that he has, and the songs that he has in Tolkien has in the books. But by the time I put chords on top of it, it became like a punk song. There's really no telling what direction it'll go. And then other times it's the other way around. You have the chorus, or you have the verse down. Not, you don't necessarily have the melody down, but you'll have the chords down. You'll have a progression or a riff or something, and then it's later on you add lyrics on top of that. So it's not always such a uniform thing. I feel like each song is kind of unique in a way.
All right. Now, I have to admit, during that whole little spiel about your process, all I could think of is you doing yoga with like the downward facing dog, but with like a pen and paper by your face as you're scribbling down lyrics as you go. So.
That's a pretty good image. It's more like I'll do yoga, and then when I'm done, I'll get to writing. I can't do downward dog and write a song at the same time.
Maybe that's your new inspiration. Maybe that's a good idea. New way to try it.
I'll give it a try. Yeah.
Who knows? You might fall on your face and have a broken nose.
That's okay. It's worth it for the art.
And as long as you don't come back to me for the medical bills, I'm okay with that too.
Oh no! I'll only blame myself.
Awesome. So what do you have coming up with the Primates? Obviously, you guys have been working on some new music. Do you have any shows coming up?
So I think our next show isn't until March that we have booked right now. I think it's March 26th. I think that's going to be at Moondogs.
Love Moondogs. Love them.
Shout out to Moondogs.
Fantastic place, man. They have definitely brought music to downtown Auburn.
Absolutely. That's home base for us. We love everybody down there. We've been playing down there for years. We actually played our first show down there.
Nice.
Our first time we ever played. And that was actually, if I'm remembering correctly, that was before Jake was in the band, and it was just me and Ryan O'Hara on the drums. So, I mean, some of the history, like when we started, it was sort of a White Stripes Black Keys thing. You had like me on guitar and vocals, and then Ryan O'Hara on the drums, and that was it. It was just the two of us. And I think we played a show, maybe even 2 shows, with just the 2 of us before we recruited Jake into the band.